How do you keep the audience engaged in the script?
You keep them engaged by making them work. You know, they're an observer of the movie, and you're leading them along the path. But like Billy Wilder said, you give an audience, you allow an audience to add up 2 + 2 = 4. They're going to love you forever, right? So we want to watch a movie, but we also want to, setups, payoffs. I had this discussion recently with another writer who goes, well, I don't write a lot of those, setups and stuff like the commercial movies you write. I was like, okay. But setups, we love that, because in Act 1, when we set up this thing, it saves in Act 2, and we go, I wondered why they showed the keys in the thing. Right, everything's for a reason. Nothing in there is left to chance, you know what I mean? So you keep an audience engaged by interesting characters too,
Interesting. So a setup is a little clue.
Yeah, setups. And then sometimes the setup is not paid off. There's films many times, maybe like in a noir or something, you thought was gonna, and it doesn't, you're like, that's okay. But when you have little setups that later on, oh my gosh, that's why he left the knife in the thing, because he thought, and so when you get that, you're active in your mind, not just passive watching a movie go by. It becomes more interesting, I don't know, just.
So clues, but some of them can be false?
Sure.
To keep the viewer on their toes?
And twists and turns are extremely important. We don't want to just go, the minute you bring us along and think we're going one way, we zag on another. That's going to keep my interest. Wow, yeah. Where it's not just, I've seen this before. What's going to happen? The killer's going to be behind the door with the thing, and then when that doesn't happen, you're like, oh, it didn't have, wow. It's different, it's refreshing, rather than like a formulaic cookie cutter. I've seen this a million times before, which happens,
Or also the benevolent nature of the character. Like you think somebody is
right,
in
good.
Their camp.
Sure, and then characters as well, changing sides and allegiance, and all that stuff that's why you have to have it all throughout to make it interesting, to make us want to or in a screenplay want to turn that page. We're like, I want to have a page turner. Just like that's the way the movie's going to be, hopefully, a page turner. I can't wait to the next scene. Cliffhangers. It's a TV show, cliffhanger. We end up this episode, they come at the end of the cliff. They're going to go in the next, you caught my, no, they got saved,
Or especially like in films where everybody seems dark in terms of their motives, but actually you find out. Like I'm thinking of Margin Call. It was great. Did you watch Margin Call?
No.
Oh, you didn't see that? Okay. Yeah, it was about, we'll skip it, but.
Everybody seems
except for Stanley Tucci's character, but most people there, you're like, all of the characters, their motives seem, this is during the recession, and you're not sure who's going to lose their job, who's kind of, quote, selling out, and just it keeps you on your toes because you're not sure.
Yeah, that definitely keep an audience watching. Look at some of the, like I say, some of the best films, and look at those and say, how did that work? And again, characters too. We want to go on the ride where we like these characters. That's another thing too. When I read the script, I'm like, we want to care about them. It's another thing. When I read a script, I'm like, I don't really care about just because they're here on the page.
Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I want to root for them, or be surprised, or some kind of emotional response.
Let's say Glengarry Glen Ross.
Yeah.
So not all of the characters, in fact, many of them were not likable.
Sure.
But there was something in them, like let's say Jack Lemon's character.
Yeah.
You cared about him.
Right.
You saw the desperation, and but they weren't maybe necessarily people you'd want to work with. But there was something in them that you cared for.
Yeah, that's hard to craft. I mean, absolutely.